What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I am joined by two very fine gentlemen. At the top right of the screen, you can see one Mr. Kyle Henning. How are you tonight, Kyle?
I'm doing all right. Ready to talk the most interesting prospects of this 2026 draft for the Chiefs, the three most interesting position groups. So looking forward to that tonight. Oh, that's not tonight? Oh.
You're just lying to the people,
Oh,
Kyle.
my bad.
You're just lying to the people. Come out immediately with straight lies, Tom.
Well, you know what? That's his take on it. I think there's a lot of interesting conversations with the prospect groups we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm doing great because we get to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about some things that might be unexpected, especially this is where, we're getting to some of these day 2, day 3, especially day 3 picks is what we're the groups that we're going to talk about. But there's one group. I don't want to spoil too much, but we're doing well. I'm glad that you guys are all here. It's been a minute. I've had a crazy couple weeks, but I've been working behind the scenes and following the draft stuff. The boys know, so I'm excited to jump into it.
It's good to have you back. Good to have you back as we officially start our prospect breakdown series. We'll go through over the next month or so and break down every prospect that relates to the Chiefs and how they relate to the Chiefs and where the Chiefs might draft them, all that kind of stuff. We're going to go over it. Obviously, Randy's not here tonight. He's the second part of the old, what do you guys call it? Kingdom Recon. Sorry, a million things went through my mind of Kingdom scouting the Kingdom. But yeah, Randy is the other draft guy. Tom is the main draft guy here on the Kingdom Says. I dabble in some draft stuff. Kyle dabbles a little bit in some draft stuff. We all appreciate the draft.
Kyle has run out of time.
Kyle dabbles sometimes, draft stuff.
Kyle has run out of time to spend the amount of time that Kyle used to spend on the draft. Kyle used to spend the same amount of time on the draft like Tom did, and now that doesn't happen as much as one would like. And I hope to get back to it this year.
I don't know.
The first year we did it, it was because we weren't sure we were going to have you, and I had to make sure that we had stuff to put out on this channel. So
once we had Tom, I'll tell you what, Tom, that immediately boosted the amount of film watched over the whole Kingdom Says. It makes up the majority of it, I'd say. The overall numbers went up.
You guys will, you guys have made fun of me a lot for always being a little bit ahead. The draft is, I think last weekend I was doing my first 2026 mock drafts, and you guys were,
crazy,
really?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're here. We're all going to give our takes. It's mostly going to be Tom, though. Tom. We're going to be grilling you on some, especially these positions. Yeah, these are position groups that, as we kind of alluded to, also aren't necessarily the most coveted ones going into the Chiefs offseason. If you really break it down, I've been a little more invested in some of the higher end positions that we're always looking for, like edge, wide receiver, corner. We're going to talk about some of the nittier-grittier positions today. So we've got 3 positions on dock for you. We've got quarterback, running back, and linebacker. Wanted to get kind of you could say the lowest priority ones out of the way first, although there's still a lot of interesting conversations to have about these positions. And we'll kind of keep on going week by week and continue to knock out more position groups. And Randy will be back next week, and we can get Randy's thoughts on a bunch of the position groups. And it's just going to be a good time. We're less than a month from the draft, and we've got a lot to prepare for and a lot of things to talk about. So, fellas, without further ado, should we get right into it?
I am ready.
We should.
Okay, let's do it. So, first and foremost, we're going to start with quarterback. And let's be honest, quarterback is going to be brief like it is every year when we talk about draft prospects. It's going to be especially brief this year, I think you can say, because obviously Patrick Mahomes always going to be the quarterback. I think you could say that, at the end of last season, you could have maybe anticipated the Chiefs using a late round draft pick on a quarterback or something of the likes. Not anymore now that they have traded for Justin Fields and sent a future 6th-round pick towards the Jets. So that's kind of all the capital that I would expect them to use on the position.
Mhm.
It'd be
They
kind of
used
wild
a
to
late round draft pick. They just used it on a former first round pick instead, and they used the late round draft pick from next year instead of this year.
exactly.
So
Yeah. So
And
really,
right,
I mean,
right.
go
Yeah,
ahead,
I thought
Tom.
that it's um, you know, Justin Fields had a market and I mean there are teams every year. I mean, look at what Malik Willis just made. Going to Miami, and Fields is the kind of guy that I think from the first of all, I think he's a great kid. I think he was phenomenal at Ohio State. I think he just had a weird start to his career. And you look at some of the reclamation projects across the league, most notably Sam Darnold. I think if Justin, is able to really get in and absorb what Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid are about and do some of those things, I think there's a real chance that he could grow as a player. And then, worst case scenario, if they're not able to trade him and find a deal, I think worst case scenario is you could get a comp pick back for him. So that 6th-round pick that you gave up, you're probably going to get a couple rounds back with that comp pick for next year. So kind of some 40 chests there. So, but
Yeah, obviously that's the hope is to maybe get some kind of residual kickback from Justin Fields, or if anything, just have him as a really reliable backup for you, and maybe re-sign him to a deal next year or something if it's not too lucrative. But that's kind of the most of the extent that the Chiefs will invest into the draft. Really, any other quarterbacks that get added to the team, I would expect would be UDFA's, if anything. So, but just
can I,
to kind
before
of
we
quickly,
pivot
yeah,
from quarterback, throw a
no,
couple
yeah,
thoughts out there. So,
mm-hmm.
not directly Chiefs related, but not unrelated to the Chiefs, right? The Raiders have the #1 pick. They're probably drafting Fernando Mendoza. I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
an assumed guarantee at this point. That hasn't wavered for a while. I think even before the season uh, ended, and I think that's going to be a very interesting one to watch because I think there's a lot of things about his game that make me go, I'm not really that excited about him as a prospect, but um, he's got ice in his veins. Kind of a
he's a
uh,
winner.
yeah. I mean, but it's not just that he's a winner. It's that it really does rise to the moments, and he's a tough kid. I hate when people are like, oh, they're tough, but like watching the Miami game or nothing. It was an early one of the playoff. He got lit up and went out for a couple plays and came back. Um, Seems to be a guy who resonates with it. I like him as a person, as a player, as a prospect. Like I said, there's some physical limitations. He's not not the elite arm talent, but seems to be a very smart player, very cerebral player. Could be very interesting for the Raiders. I don't know if I'm too optimistic or too worried about it, but wanted to at least mention that. And then I'm going to throw two names out there just for, one name. I'll go one name for uh, UDFA day 3 conversion player, right? And I hate saying that because these guys play quarterback their whole lives, and I just so Taylor Green out of Arkansas. Uh, we talk about uh, like freaky athletic.
Yeah.
6'6", 127 pounds, 34 and 3/4 inch arms, almost 10-inch hands. Ran a 4.36 at the combine with
Sheesh.
a 1.55 split, a 43.5-inch vertical.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
insane. An 11.2 broad.
Yeah, that was the one
Um,
of the guys. As soon as he ran that 40 time, I think I said in the group chat, I said, "Get ready to learn tight end, buddy," because that's
yeah.
probably you're right. That's going to be a guy I'd maybe convert positions because he's such a freaky athlete and trying to give him the ball, even like Taysom Hill type of role.
Yeah, and the problem with Taysom Hill or the problem with him is that mostly maybe somebody can fix it, but he just has he's got like the Tim Tebow I'm gonna wind up my arm and just chuck it. He's got a rifle of an arm, but just some of those and sounds I know he's at the Senior Bowl. Sounds like he's a good kid, coachable kid, but yeah, he's gonna be on an NFL roster. Maybe not as a quarterback, and that's why I wanted to mention him because if for some reason the Chiefs decide, you know what, let's bring this kid in, it's probably not to be a long term backup. It's probably a let's see if we can move him to tight end, wide receiver, uh, give him the old Terrell Pryor treatment. Want
Yeah,
to be a
yeah.
guy there.
Uh, I do have two names, and this is a
Or
quarterback
Matt
class where
Jones.
like, yeah, this is a quarterback class where like there's one guy at the top for the most part, and then the second best quarterback in this class could be literally any of them. Um, and
Not a
there's
very
two
good quarterback
names.
class. Very bad quarterback class, you could say.
There's two names that I think are going to find themselves much farther up the who was actually good in this quarterback class list by the time it's all said and done. And Baron Morton from Texas Tech, he at a couple of different points, he's got the arm talent. I don't think that's really questionable. He can throw the ball. I'm curious to see what he looks like with NFL talent around him all over the place on offense. Not instead of just at a couple of positions. We've seen a Texas Tech quarterback. Now, granted, not anywhere close to the same production in college as the guy here, but it, he's an interesting one. I think he's going to do better than many think. I think you could see him making at least finding a spot way to be a multi-year backup in the NFL. And the other one is Randy's boy out of North Dakota State. Cole Payton. Somebody's going to take a chance on in like the 6th or 7th round, maybe the 5th because he's a quarterback, but like, or even end up being a UDFA. But in that day 3 UDFA range, and I think he can find his way into a backup role as well for at least a few years there. He's 6'3", 230-ish, depending on what measurements you go off. I don't think he was at the combine, and I don't know if North Dakota State's done their pro day yet. I hadn't seen the results from that yet or not, but CBS has him at 6'3", 233, so he's plenty traditional quarterback sized. But yeah, the rest of this quarterback class is, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean here, but Cade Klubnik stinks. Um, Garrett Nussmeyer, yeesh, guys. I mean,
Great name.
they had
Great name.
talent out their ears at LSU, and he couldn't do squat. Now I know Brian Kelly sucks, but uh, you know,
Yeah, it was rough.
Tommy Reese didn't, and so Drew Aller. Maybe it was just the jersey that made him incapable of throwing decent passes in big games. He's also really inconsistent with his accuracy, which scares the hell out of me in the NFL. Since it was already a problem in college, and then like, I don't know, guys, Carson Beck. Ask Georgia fans about Carson Beck. Miami fans probably not super thrilled about that championship game. So,
Ain't gone to the championship at least, but yeah.
and then the rest of them, like Tom's like, yeah, we could turn Taylor Green into a tight end, or Diego Pavia could.
Haynes King is another guy you can maybe turn into a tight end or something. He's a little bit of an athlete to him.
Maybe Diego Pavia plays safety and just starts biting people's ankles. He seems like one of the little ankle biter type guys. He's little ankle.
I can see him. I can see him.
Yeah.
I can see him converting to like kicker. I mean, he's like kind of the size of a kicker, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's fair. He's little, like I said, and like I said, this quarterback
he'll be
class is
debuting
just
for the UFL
very.
one day. He's gonna be
The quarterback class is just
Diego
very.
Pavia is gonna be the number one pick in the UFL in a couple years. Don't you worry about it.
That
He's
might
gonna
be
the
true.
number one overall
It's-
pick.
So, like I said, when you go through this quarterback class,
Jalen Daniels. I know
kind of
Kansas fans. If there's any Kansas fans, I know they like Jalen Daniels or.
his knees make Legarius's look sturdy. What are we talking about? No,
Yeah.
stop it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's kind
So,
of quarterback class.
when
That's kind of it.
The reason I wanted to kind of walk through that list is because we talked about the Justin Fields thing, and when that Justin Fields news came out, it was, you're wasting draft capital on a quarterback position. Why are we doing? And it's like, guys, they don't have a backup, and unless you really want to watch Chris Oladokun try to run the offense during training camp, which I love you, Chris, but no thanks. So, what is the equivalent value on the trade charts of a 7th round pick this year, and a late 7th round pick at that, because it's a late sixth rounder, most likely next year. You get a guy that maybe he plays a few games, a team that really wants him, and you either get a trade offer for him in the middle of the year, or you get a comp pick for him next year because somebody signs him for a Malik Willis contract because they have a Tua Tagovailoa situations on their hands with $100 million in dead cap or whatever it is. So you look through the draft class, you look through the available free agent quarterbacks, and you really start to quickly understand next year's sixth for a viable backup who is a guy who has a bunch of talent and at least understands how to play quarterback in the NFL. And he's got at least some familiarity with you because he played 1 year for Nags, if I'm not mistaken. His first year was with Nagy. So there's at least a little system. Yeah, because then they didn't fire Nagy, and then they brought in Matt Eberflus the next year, and that went worse than Matt Nagy, shockingly enough. And then he went to the Jets. So that's not. I don't really hold Justin Fields NFL. I don't really hold Justin Fields' NFL career arc. Yeah, for like 6 minutes when he was backing up Russ, and then they decided to finally let the kid play, and all of
They were like splitting reps because Russ was injured for like the first part of the season. So he was starting, and then they looked okay, and then Russ came back, and then they were not okay, and then Justin really hasn't had a fair shake of it. I mean, he's had a lot of different systems. He's had a lot of different really bad teams around him. He's been on some really bad teams. So I mean, like Kyle said, getting that kind of getting that kind of talent for a future 6th-round pick is going to be better than any backup you could have drafted for sure. And for getting only $3 million a year, I mean there's some backups that might have paid you might have got a vet min contract on, but that's good. We'll take that for sure. So that's kind of the quarterback discussion that we have. Moving on to a little bit more interesting position. We'll have a lot more notes on running back. This is one that, just to preface the Chiefs situation, a lot of people, I think, at the end of last season could have anticipated the Chiefs using a very high draft pick on a running back. For a lot of the pre-free agency discussion, it was Jeremiah Love, right? That was the guy that would hopefully fall to 9, and he is a absolutely phenomenal running back, and we've already talked a lot about him, but we're going to talk more about him because he's just such a great player. But that was kind of one of the predicted picks as Jeremiah Love, or just a day 2 running back, round 2, round 3. And then free agency starts, and you sign Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP, to a really good running back contract, more investment of a running back contract than we've seen in a very long time. And so that kind of x-nays a lot of the thoughts of, well, I guess not all of the thoughts, but it gets rid of a lot of the thoughts of drafting a running back in round 1, probably even round 2, and probably even round 3, right? I think we can kind of, logically, you would think with the amount of other running backs that we have, you wouldn't spend more than a 3rd, 4th rounder. Who knows? If the opportunity arises, it might happen, but I know there's some people still mocking Jeremiah Love to the Chiefs, which would be kind of ridiculous, I think, at this point now, to go from absolutely no investment in the running back position to all of the investment at the running back position.
Bring back the Wildcat.
Hey, Wildcat. Get some notes from Miami. So that's where the running back position sits for the Chiefs. Tom, when you look at this running back class, how was your overall kind of take on it?
I will say this. It is Jeremiah Love, and then it is a cliff. And I think that was a big reason why we saw the Chiefs and the Saints go out and get a running back early, go get guys off the top of the market, just because you can't kind of sit around and bank on that. I would also say, I know that there's been I think there's been now 2 people suggesting that the Chiefs would take Jeremiah Love at 9 still if he was there. That says 2 things to me. One, I don't think that they would let that intel out of the building if that was a serious consideration. And 2, the fact that they went out and got Walker and made that such a priority, I am confident that they believe Love will not be there. I think Tennessee makes sense. I could see the Giants pulling the trigger. I could see Washington doing it. So and really for the Chiefs fan at this point, and you guys, I mean, I was team captain of get Jeremiah Love, right? Like I was the head
Excuse me.
rusher. I was
I've been
second.
I've been talking about Jeremiah Love for 3
Howard is
years.
a Notre Dame fan. I mean, he's
Yeah,
I
whatever.
look, y'all.
Okay, fine. I was
I
first mate.
watched Jeremiah Love play 2 games as a
first mate.
freshman, and the first thing I said on this show was, in 3 years, I pray for some magical way we're up high enough in the draft to take this kid, and then we're not. We're still not. We're
Still
ninth,
not.
and we're
Yeah.
still not. And you know
No,
how I
I,
know that?
Yeah.
Because of the same thing Tom said. They went to Indianapolis and they got to
Mhm.
sit in St. Elmo's and eat shrimp cocktail and drink drinks with the with the Commanders and the Giants and like all the teams Tom just mentioned, and somebody in front of them said, "He ain't gonna be there, boys. He ain't gonna be there." And if you
I
don't believe
will.
me, look what the Saints did at running back, who draft the pick ahead of Kansas City.
Yeah. I will also add. Tennessee's general managers is Mike Borgonzia,
Mike
who
Borgonzi.
close with Brett Veach. So I think that those. I mean, again, people there's some gamemanship or whatever, but yeah, it's a good. And I'll just say this to sum it up: Jeremiah Love is so good that if the stars aligned and for some reason he was still there at 9 and all the edge rushers were gone and the Chiefs took him, I wouldn't even be that upset. I'd be like a 2 on the
Yeah.
upset scale. Like, I think that's not a great like. He's just that good that you're like I can't be mad about drafting good football players. It's a
Y'all better
terrible
learn to
value.
speak. Y'all better learn to speak two back. That's all I
Yeah,
gotta say.
I think
I
I'd
think
still be
so.
mad. I think I'd be pretty mad.
Oh no, I'd be mad, but like only like a 2 versus like a, like a
Andy
Tyson
Reid
Jackson.
doesn't. Andy Reid barely uses one running back. You think he's going to use 2? Come on,
I'm
come
telling
on.
you, we're gonna reinvent the Wildcat. It's just
Unless,
gonna happen.
unless they really
They
know
want the
that.
speed
Yeah,
option,
I
the
don't know.
triple option.
Maybe the
I've been
crazy
pushing for
game
the
plan.
triple option in the pro level
Back,
for a long time.
bring back the wing T or something, and just
You
I don't
got
know.
Justin Fields.
Hey,
I'm telling you right now.
they we used
Yeah.
to run pro. There used to be a numerous amount of 2 running back sets with shotgun
hmm
Yeah,
in league
yeah.
years past. Garrett was like 7 the last time that was prominent in the league, but it
They do
was a thing at
sometimes
one
do
point.
that. Yeah, we ain't gonna do
No,
that,
no,
but
they used
they
to
do
do it
sometimes.
all the time.
Yeah, they do sometimes do that. We ain't gonna
Yeah.
do it though.
No, I just
Ain't
look,
gonna be
guys. I mean,
us.
I'm the biggest Jeremiah Love guy. I've been on, like I said, I've been on that wagon forever. It just doesn't make sense. I also don't think he's going to be there. And as Tom mentioned,
Mhm.
it's him, and then it's everybody else, and everybody else is so far behind him that they're hard to see on the screen. And his
Yeah.
teammate is a stud. Like I love Jadarian Price. Also, it's part of the reason that Jeremiah Love's collegiate numbers weren't more Ashton Genty like, is because there was another guy who also had almost 1,000 yards and was actually, as ridiculous as this is going to sound, a bigger big play threat than Jeremiah Love was in some instances. Um, so I mean, he it it's there's not a lot. There's some guys that tested well. This is one of the only position groups I have done a bunch of work on because of the Jeremiah Love possibility and all of the other things when it comes into the discussion of having when you're talking about taking a running back at 9 and you're one of the few people that were on the train for a long time, you then have to have evidence for your defense of why.
Why
So
he's
I did
better
a
than
lot of
everybody
work
else.
on the rest of this class, and like
He good.
I'll be honest, like after Jadarian Price, Mike Washington Jr. is like the next guy, and I don't trust a whole lot of the rest of this running back class. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton both at Penn State. Look, man, Penn State people are probably not gonna like me, and that's fine. I don't particularly care. That backfield was vaunted as it was. never really did anything when they played their big boy opponents. Ohio State gave both of those running backs problems. Michigan gave both of those running back problems. Notre Dame gave both of those running back problems. Over and over again, they struggled when it came into games with big boy, big time defensive line groups, and maybe some of that is Penn State sucks in big games. Maybe some of that is the offensive line not being on the same scale, but that's a Big Ten offensive line. It should be plenty fine to play Power Five football, and they struggled and had some odd fumble issues. Each one of them had a point in their career where they had a little bit of a weird. It wasn't a ton of fumbles, but there was a stretch where they both had like 4 or 5 games where it was like can't stop fumbling the ball. I remember at one point one of them got benched for the other one because he fumbled the ball like 3 or 4 times in like 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am not I am not a fan of this running back class outside of Jeremiah Love. I think it's probably a good thing that they went out and got the running backs that they got, because they also have Amari DiMercato at this point. I think you've kind of got your running back room with Walker and him and Brashard Smith, and then whatever you decide to do, fullback, running back, fourth running back wise. I just this class, I'd rather sign Kareem Hunt for $1 million or 1.8 or whatever and tell him he's going to have the ball like 30 times a season for third down, and that's it for like the fourth and a half a foot.
There's some interesting names.
I wouldn't spend a draft pick on anybody in this class is my thing. Like, if I'm going to get anybody out of this class, I'm taking a UDFA. You just paid Kenneth Walker.
There's still some names. There's still some names I would take, I'd say.
Like I said, you just paid Kenneth Walker. This class is really weak. There's not a lot of big play. I mean, Mike Washington is probably your next most dangerous after the first two that I mentioned, like I said.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Can we talk about Mike Washington? Because I want to talk about Mike Washington.
I don't think you're going to get him anywhere before the third round, so I don't think you're going to spend that much draft capital on a position you feel like you've at least addressed already to the highest level of the holes you've addressed on your roster in free agency. Because it just doesn't make sense to me. That's my deal.
No, I'm not saying that it's like that should be the priority and they should like run out and grab make that whatever. But I think if things change, in whatever ways, like this class is weird. And I've said this for months, right? It's a strange class. And it feels like the vibes on it are changing a lot. Right now, I feel like we're really deep into smokescreen season. I believe it's possible that Jeremiah Love could go in the first round in the top 10, and then we may not see another running back taken until middle into the second round or even into the third round. I mean, it's possible. So I think with that in mind, and you see these runs on positions, I think with the running back, we'll probably see some of that, day two a little bit. But there's also a lot of other players like in that day two range, that second, third round range that I just think are going to be commodities, right? There's a lot of depth at edge rusher. There's some intriguing offensive line projects. There's a lot of defensive backs. It's a weirdly strong safety class. There's quite a bit of linebackers that I think are going to be there on day two. And to your point, Kyle, like some of these running backs, like they're not the most impressive guys. It's not the most impressive class. It's nothing like last year was wildly, if you stack the two classes next to each other,
there was like 100 of them.
Yeah, but that said, I think that there's an argument. Sometimes what happens is the good ones get gone fast. But I think with running back being kind of undervalued, you can see some of that. So Mike Washington, if he's there on day three, like,
sure,
yeah, as a change of pace guy, but also like here's what I like about the idea of Mike Washington slotting in with Kenneth Walker. A guy like Mike Washington is he's got the explosive ability and he's a tough, like he's big, like 6'1", 223, ran a 4.33 with a 1.51 10-yard split, which is wild.
That's fast,
explosive.
Kid.
Didn't he have a 9.9 RAS or something?
Yes, I do
he's
believe
an amazing player in my book. he's the guy that, like, late in the fourth quarter, Ken Walker needs to come out, take a breather, and then all of a sudden Mike Washington's going down the field for 60 yards. And I think that's, he's the guy who's going to wear defenses out and be a good change of pace. Um,
Yeah,
the
9.99 for the
yeah.
RAS for him. Yeah.
And
Pretty
again,
elite. Pretty elite measurables.
I agree with what Kyle's saying. Is like, it's not going to be a situation where it's like, oh, we have to go out of our way to get this guy. But if you're telling me we got to,
I mean, he's there. Yeah.
and there's nobody really compelling left.
Yeah.
Again, we think about what moves the needle most. Let's talk about the Penn State guys real quick, because I think they're interesting. Coming into the class or into the year, it was a conversation about the Notre Dame pair of running backs and then the Penn State running backs, right? And everyone was kind of looking at Nicholas Singleton, who is a world-class athlete, former 5-star, just all, 6 foot, 219, built like a Greek god. Just this pedigree that's just ridiculous, and showed some, like, speed and explosiveness. But man, I don't know if this is just me being triggered because I've watched this happen, but, like, I look at Nicholas Singleton and I'm like, this is Isaiah Pacheco reincarnated.
Can't find a hole.
He can't. Yeah. Yeah. He can't find.
No, man. He's that guy. It's the guy that's blind with the walking stick that's trying to go across the crosswalk and keeps, like, running into the post when he's walking across the crosswalk instead of actually making the cross. It's bad. And then, like I said, he had ball security issues, and like, dude, he should be an animal. He is. I hate some of the old, like, draft phrases.
Mm-hmm.
But you remember the looks like the I'm trying to
looks like Tarzan plays like Jane.
Yes. I mean, he is.
I was like, yeah, knew that one.
He should be absolutely destroying people, and then you watch some of the tape, and you're like, what? Because his testing's crazy. Like Tom said it, like he's a monster human.
And it goes back to his.
And he's talented, but the deficiencies are just, like, crippling deficiencies. Ball security and not reading the gap correctly is a real problem when you're a running back, guys. And so, and like Tom said, I always when this year started and that was the conversation, I was like, you guys are insane. It's not even close. And it turned out to not be close. Those two running backs versus the counterparts in Notre Dame went opposite directions this year as far as perspective or perception from fans and NFL talent evaluators. Because at the beginning of the year, the conversation was these are pretty much the top 4 backs in the country. They're both playing for 2 universities. This is going to be great. And now, like I said, I genuinely would take Mike Washington, or even, God, I'd probably even Emmett out of Nebraska over
Emmett
them
Johnson.
too.
Probably. If Randy was here, Emmett, he would be gushing over Emmett Johnson. I know he loves Emmett Johnson.
That Randy's not here because I got some thoughts on Emmett.
And he, like I said, those two dudes for me were always overhyped, I guess, with the conversation, and then really
Penn
going
State
back
in general is just overhyped. I feel like Penn State in general is just the most overhyped school ever. They pay $1 billion in their NIL and they still suck.
Well, it's one of those. It's one of those. They were good forever because one guy was there for. It was Nick Saban. I mean, Joe Paterno was there for literally forever at one point.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of that comes from.
They're a little lost. I will say this about the Penn State guys. I understand the physical traits with Nicholas Singleton, but if you were giving me the choice, I'm taking Katron Allen just because he's steady
Yes.
Eddie, and if you're going for a guy on third down, he's a rotational guy. Again, your starter's out, needs to take a break. I can hand him the ball. He's going to give me 3, 4, 5 yards. Come back out. I think he's going to play hard. He's going to practice hard. Like that's
Yes.
the guy you want. In that sense, between those two, I think when I see Singleton, I see a guy who's relied on his elite athleticism all the way, through, and then it's, especially at the pro level, it's not everybody's an elite athlete at the pro level, so.
Yep.
It's different. We've got a lot of running backs. I'm going to run through a couple real quick. I'll put this one out there because I think he's an interesting one. He'll probably be out of the Chiefs' range just because of how it falls. But Jonah Coleman out of Washington was a guy that I really liked coming into the year. In fact, I had him not right behind, but I had him behind Jeremiah Love. And he just struggled so much. He's built like a bowling ball, 5'8", 220. He just looked slow and uncertain, and there's murmurs, and there's it's been confirmed that he's dealing with some injury stuff this year. He looked like a completely different player in 2024 in terms of being able to be explosive. It's weird to me to say that I think he's probably another guy who I would wait for day 3 to take him, just because I think there's questions about athleticism at that size. It's just a tough one, but and then whatever injury concerns it is, it's it's one of those. Is it how much of that is it going to has it zapped from his athleticism? So again, maybe a little PTSD from the Clyde Edwards-Helaire situation, because I know he was a different player before his injury. Emmett Johnson, I know Randy loves him. And he's not bad.
It's interesting that you don't like him, because I kind of like Emmett Johnson. I don't mind Emmett Johnson's tape. I think he's got pretty good tape. I know he didn't test the best. That's kind of a little bit of a knock on him.
He ran better at his pro day and all that. But it's that even the people who are excited about him, it's he's pretty good. Yeah, I'm not saying he's bad. I think he's that guy who does everything well. And he's like the James Conner tier.
He does everything well.
A starter, he can be your starter if you but I just don't know if he's gonna. I'm just not
move the needle.
He's good. He's okay. Yeah, he's I don't hate
it. He can catch the ball. I mean, he can catch the ball at the backfield. Yeah. He can do the receiving game. His pass pro might not be the craziest, but he's got pretty decent burst out of holes and stuff. He can find holes.
Yeah. There are things I like about his game. Don't get me wrong. I just I'm not here. I'm okay. If you took him on day 2, I wouldn't be mad. But if you took him on day 3, I'm that also makes sense. I think he's benefiting from a pretty weak class. I think he'll be a solid pro. I think he will. Like I said, he could play in this league for 10 years. But I think he is that above average backup. Can be a starter kind of player. I'm just not blown away by him.
A good comp.
Do what?
James Conner is a good comp. I feel like it's
I don't think
he's
a starter, but going to be a star. But I think
not
he can
really
be
blow your way.
Running back. Yeah.
And I do think
Tom
more as a receiver, but it's just reliable. That's the way I would describe him. He's reliable. He's good. He's got more juice to him than I think some other guys, but
Jamari Taylor and Eli Heidenreich. Obviously, a little.
Sorry.
Which one was that too?
Heidenreich. I know he sounds like he should be working for our government right now, but.
Well, that's because he went to Navy, also, kids. So he technically probably should be working.
That's the guy who's going to be an H-back, isn't he? I mean, he's going to be an H-back.
Yeah, he's going to be an H-back fullback type deal. Yeah. There's a reason I bring him up, because the Chiefs have a type in that he's one of the guys.
They have a type. They feel like they want to have that type, but then it just doesn't work out for him. I feel like.
He's one of the guys I was contemplating them looking at if he's around at that 7th round UDFA range, because you already said the name, Carson Steele, but I think he's better than Carson ever was, really, as far as where they're at coming into the draft process. And then Jamari Taylor is just interesting to me because of the little bowling ball aspect, like Tom mentioned earlier. With
Yeah.
um,
I do need to watch some more of Jamari Taylor. I know some people um, who like his game. I'll be honest. I think I've watched maybe one or two like breakdowns of him. But Heidenreich fascinates me for a lot of reasons. One, there's a conversation about whether or not he should play running back, fullback, or wide receiver. Like all of those are somewhat options.
for the
Uh,
people that don't know, give us his profile, give us the measurements and all the things.
Yeah, 6 foot. I think he's 220, 223, 220
He a
something.
big boy.
Yeah, he's compact. I just had him pulled up a minute ago. I was looking through him. Here he is. Um, I don't. I think you can give him a couple of carries. So 6 foot 198. I was wrong. I was like 30 pounds off. He's smaller than that. So give him a couple carries.
What did you say?
I'm
What did he weigh in at?
198. So
There you
They
go.
have him listed at 210, and I thought he was heavier than 200 pounds. That's
yeah, at least
crazy.
that's a
Yeah,
little bit.
this
You
is
got to
kind of a
remember he
small
probably
fella.
probably
He's
slimmed down a little
versatile.
bit. Before.
He is versatile. I mean, he can catch out the back. Like he can catch. He's got decent route running to him, but I just don't know
I
if that's
think
something that I think the Chiefs want to have a guy like that, but they just never really works out for him. I feel like.
I get that, like, and that's where I think the conversation of like, is he is he both or is he neither? Right? Like that's a big. The guy who's running the Senior Bowl now, Drew something. He talks about that a lot with some of those guys like Harold Perkins and those tweener players. Like you don't want to be half good at two things. You want to be either really good at one thing or really good at both things, right? And it's a
Yeah.
hard thing to do. So like with Navy, um, I just I think when you talk about an H back, like how you utilize him, I think I'd put some weight on him a little bit more. Like he's just got the juice as a pass catcher. I think he's gonna be a guy who plays special teams. I think he obviously played for Navy. He's got discipline. If I remember right, I know with the service academy
It's
schools like
deferred service.
deferred service. Yes, so I think he's already been approved for that.
I
But
don't think
yeah,
they go into the
really,
draft, into the NFL draft, unless they've been approved for it. I think that's a beforehand. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they do the approval process and then they enter the draft. I'm fairly certain that's
yeah.
how it was.
I think, but if you think about it, like we might be saving this man's life if we get him drafted. Keep him out of the war. Um, just throwing
You're
it
not
out
He
there.
wrong.
is in the Navy,
Yeah,
and they
you're
are
not
very
wrong.
busy lately. So
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's. I mean,
I don't know
again,
if he's,
he's just
what
he's
his
just a
position is.
I
um.
got one more running back duo to talk about since
There's
we're
so
gonna
many
talk
more.
about running back duos. The
Right.
Indiana running back duo of
Yeah.
Kalen Black and Roman Hemby. Obviously, they got a lot of shine nationally because of the college football playoff run and all that. Those are guys that would be more in the Chiefs' range of running backs that you'd actually take in like the 4th to 7th rounds. I feel like what do we think about those guys?
Um. I wanted to like Kalen Black more than I did. I really. I just came away very whelmed. Right. Um. He's not going to create for you. He's not going to have a lot. But again, very similar to Katron Allen, steady Eddie, part of your rotation, doing pretty well. Um, I similarly like Roman Hemby. I think Hemby has a chance to be a guy who has a little bit more meat, a little more meat on the bone. Like can potentially be um, a starting level player at a spot. I'm trying to think of like a good tier to compare him to. Um, yeah, I like Hemby more, and just from an athletic and a pass game standpoint. But um, I don't know. I wanted to like both of them more than I did, which is I think again and kind of a testament to that Indiana offense, which just was very efficient, and they were both just very efficient players. And um, Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
not.
to that
Day three guys.
end, they both averaged almost 5 yards a carry, and they both had basically 1,000 yards. Like they had almost the same
Yeah,
season.
Super
Himby
productive.
had
Yeah.
had more carries. Himby had more carries. Who's what's the other name? I'm sorry,
Kellen Black.
I blanked on the other kid. Kalen Black.
yeah,
He had more touchdowns. Himby had the longer yard. Had the longest run. I think Himby's was 82, and the other one, and Kalen's was only like 40. Like I mean, they're very similar running backs. Frankly, it's a little bit of which recipe do you like more between the two? One does a little bit better in one category than the other, vice versa. But they're very similar players. It, they, much like Tom said, I came away from watching them and I went, yeah, they're there. I mean, they're there. They're fine. They're there. That
Let's
it not necessarily inspiring for like a we need to go get somebody like that guy, but they'll be
right.
fine. I mean, you can make a solid running back out of either one of them. I think. I just
Yeah.
don't know that I'm
Yeah.
spending anything more than like a fifth or a sixth, maybe even a seventh on that draft capital on that. It's like I said when we started this group. There's not a lot here where I'm like, unless like Tom said, Mike Washington is there in like the fourth or fifth round and or something like that where a guy just falls and free falls because this position gets forgotten about due to the rest of this draft. I just don't see the value in spending a pick on it.
Let's hammer out a couple more names real quick because we're going a little long on running backs. Damon Claiborne out of Wake Forest.
disappointing. That's the word
Disappointing.
for him.
That's
Um,
exactly where I was at.
I, he
I
was a
wanted
guy
to
that
like him a lot more than I did. That's where I
5'10",
am.
195. Yeah,
yeah,
kind of
small,
mid.
disappointing. I just don't think he's got. Um, he'll be around, but I don't think
Crazy
he'll make
athlete.
a splash. Yeah, it's a size thing. It's a toughness. I mean, not I don't want to say toughness because you got to be tough to play football, but um, I just think that he's a guy who, if he's got the room and he whatever, then awesome. But he's not gonna. Um, he's gonna make you miss, but if you get hands on him, yeah. And then there's some questions about ball security this year, and you know fumbles, all
Yeah,
that stuff. I just
yeah.
he was a guy who was like, all right, this could be a one to jump. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on a guy who I kind of think is probably not gonna. If he's a one and done kind of contract player, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yep. Okay, how about Seth McGowan, Kentucky?
The Kentucky kid.
Yeah, the first thing that needs to check out with him is the off the field stuff. I think he had
Yeah.
a pretty significant um, legal issue. Um,
Yes,
this
connected
is
to a
yeah,
robbery. He got arrested, dismissed from Oklahoma, spent 3 months in jail. Then went the JUCO route. Had to go back through. Uh,
mhm,
yeah,
yeah.
had to kind of work
Also,
his way back up. A little bit older too.
older prospect. He's got some juice to him, and he's a big back. The off the field thing is pretty concerning. It was a
It
pretty
wasn't good.
significant
It wasn't good.
situation. Yeah, I think there was a firearm involved, and it was a pretty and it was not like that's the big one. You got to figure that out. Um, I think
Probably
that
not worth the risk.
yeah, I think that he's got good vision. And again, if he was like a solid pro, it would not surprise me if he's got his head on straight, and I hope he does. Um, but yeah, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to want to take much of a risk like that.
Yeah,
Um,
especially with just like
I'm
a
gonna, I'm
mid
gonna
running back class.
see if you give me the name that I want you to give me. We'll see.
Okay, I have a couple more that we'll rattle through real quick. Robert Henry Jr. out of UTSA.
um, he shouldn't
Uh-huh.
be as good as he looks. That's my That's the it. He's not. He doesn't flash, but there is something about him who um, you just watch him and you go, yep, he's pesky. He's pesky about it. He is uh, in the mold of a Charkandrick West Spencer Ware, like they're just gonna hang around and work really hard and find a spot, and you turn around
You
and there he is, taking over for an injured starter, or just trying to think of the other kid. Oh, I don't want to say Tyler
Mookie.
Algier because that was a different situation, but yeah, I mean, I think he's again an older player. I think he's a fifth year senior. Small schools, small competition. What I worry about. Also, I know he had a big game against Texas A&M, and I'm just going to remind people to look at that Texas A&M defense. And I know that it was a good defense from a pass catch, but like they were not a well-rounded, well-run run defense. So
I mean, Big 12 defenses in general. I mean,
yeah. So
yeah,
I
I'll
mean,
get there.
but if he turns out to be a guy who's like one of the 5, 6 best backs in this class, it wouldn't surprise me. I like it's kind of the opposite. Like I didn't want to like him, but I was like I can't deny that he's doing his job. Like he's
Hmm.
doing good. Like I was very whelmed by his profile and like just I was like oh here's because sometimes it happens in the process. There's a small school guy who gets just all this buzz and I don't see it and he's all right.
Yeah. Okay. That's most of the names that are like real top guys. Who's the other guy you had in mind, Tom?
Adam Randall,
Okay.
Clemson,
Adam Randall out of Clemson. Okay.
started wide receiver. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Six
This
foot
one.
3, 232 pounds, 32 and 3/8 inch arms, 9 3/4 inch hands, so big hands. Ran a 4.5 at the combine, 1 6 yard or 10 yard split. So, I mean, big kid, big kid. Uh, I think he offers some stuff in the receiving game. But kind of surprised as a runner this year. You could tell it was his first year, like as a true running back.
Right.
Um,
Similar to
but
Rashard Smith.
yeah, but did really well. Ran with two. I mean, very similar, but like bigger. Like think of like a supercharged Rashard Smith. The only thing that other than the fact that you're taking him as a developmental guy and you're gonna have to probably teach him the nuances of the position, but who better to do that than Eric Bieniemy and
True.
um, DeMarco Murray,
Yeah.
right? Especially like we talk about DeMarco Murray, like DeMarco was a bigger back. Um, but yeah, and then the only other thing with him is there's some injury history there. But again, if we're taking a day 3 guy, I would probably be most excited about the upside of Adam Randall because you don't need him to be really good, but you just need him to like he just has. Um, it's just fun to think about what he could be. So I know we've got other positions to talk about, and I'm actually more excited about the next position group. So
Yeah.
let's get into.
Let's get into it. Let's get into linebackers now. We've hashed out the running back class pretty well, I'd say. I think we came to a good conclusion. There's probably, if anything, it's going to be a day 3 running back that we're drafting. Linebacker is a little bit different. Linebacker it's a very versatile. It's a very interesting class, a very deep class. I think you could say about linebacker. Obviously, there's guys at the very top end of the spectrum, and then you go all the way down through. I mean, there's solid guys in each kind of tier of the draft. Once again, when you talk linebacker, you got to figure out of what you're categorizing as a linebacker necessarily. That's always a fun, off ball versus blah blah blah. We're mostly talking about off ball linebackers here. In the Chiefs defense, primarily a 4-3 defense, you mostly just have off ball linebackers or edge rushers. There's not like outside linebackers and stuff like that really. But with the first guy who's on that list, Arvell Reese, who is a top 5 projected pick for sure. It seems he's a very good prospect out of Ohio State. He's kind of an everything guy. I mean, you can have him off ball linebacker. He has a little bit of edge to him. You can play him on the line. To me, he feels like more of an off-ball guy that you can blitz and you can kind of do maybe some stunts with and stuff. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Abdul Carter, but not quite as big as Abdul is. But kind of, especially how the Giants used him, where they just kind of used him as like an off-ball blitzer this year. Very versatile guy. I think the consensus on him is that he's probably going to be a top 5 guy to one of these teams. Tom, what do you think about Arvell?
Yeah. So this is where it's like, what is smoke and what is real? The conversation, kind of picking up this week is, oh well, some teams have him, only as an off-ball linebacker, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting because Dane Brugler's had him as like the top player, top two player in his draft class all year, right? He's been on him. Um, he really can do it all. The pass rush snaps are like, uh, yeah, I mean they're impressive for somebody who doesn't do that full time. And I think everybody wants me back to be Micah Parsons. I don't think he's that level. I think the Abdul. This is the conversation. I'm stealing this from Nate Tice and somebody else over at the Athletic, the football show. They talked about Abdul Carter. Before his last season at Penn State, he was an off-ball linebacker. Then he went down to edge and that type of thing. And they said you could kind of see um, Arvell Reese as where Carter was before he jumped down to edge. So I think like it makes sense to make that transition, especially for Reese, because you make a lot more money as an edge than you do as a linebacker in this league.
Yeah.
But I think that it gives you some more flexibility. The whole conversation about is it going to be a top? It would be surprising, but again, it's smoke season, smoke screen season. Again,
Mhm.
it's tricky because I think there's some anxiety about. We've seen players like this kind of before, and they haven't always worked out, right? I think like Arizona knows very familiar. Like they've taken guys, where it's like
Jim
Isaiah
Collins,
Simmons, kind of
Isaiah
in
Simmons,
between.
both
Yeah,
those guys, honestly.
yeah, and that's I think that's the worst case scenario. But I think even if you just leave him as an off ball linebacker, he's an athletic freak. He plays with violence. He hits. He tackles. Like he's what you want. I mean, as a modern NFL linebacker, um, yeah, and we can go ahead and jump to his teammate Sonny Styles, who phenomenal, maybe one of the best combine performances. I mean, from both of them, it really was like they were going back and forth, and um, phenomenal athlete, converted safety. I think that the combine hype probably moved the needle a little bit too much for him. I think he's a top 20 player, but now people are saying he's going to be top five, top 10. And, um, again, I wouldn't even hate the pick at 9 if, depending on how the board fell, because I think if you can
Yeah.
find some corners for this defense, like that's great. And I think Sonny Styles is that guy. And the other thing, the combine is like it sounds like he really impressed in the meetings and the reviews. So, um, I think he still has room to grow as a player, but he's one of the younger players in this draft class. I think he'll be 21 his rookie season. So, I mean, athletic freak. Um, I'd say 50-50 on if he's there. And if the board falls a certain way, I wouldn't hate the pick, but wouldn't be my not a pick that I'm like, oh yeah, we absolutely have to do that one.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's very interesting, those two being teammates, and obviously they're kind of both very different styles of what you would call a linebacker. Obviously, Arvell Reese more of a tweener defensive end edge guy, as opposed to Sonny Styles more of a tweener, like almost safety hybrid kind of guy. But yeah, Sonny Styles a little more fun of a player, I think. Like Tom said, if you were to, if the board were to fall poorly at 9, I wouldn't hate the addition of him. I don't know necessarily, how he would slot in with the Chiefs right off the bat with Nick Bolton there. I kind of, I guess you could try to play him as like a will linebacker, as a higher side, higher end like Drew Tranquil type of player. I just don't know if he's necessarily that kind of guy that fits with what the Chiefs do. Feels like he'd be more of like a 3-4 inside linebacker kind of guy, or just, I don't know. He can definitely be a super versatile player, and like I said, I wouldn't hate the pick, but I don't think it's necessarily a priority that we need to make, especially with just what skill set he has. You can kind of get like Matt Milano vibes or something, where it's like, is he a tight end cover? Like, is he gonna, like, is that
sure.
what his role is, or like, what is his really role in the NFL? And that's kind of with both of those guys, Reese and Styles. It's like, what will their role really develop into the NFL? I don't know if we're like experimental enough to kind of try it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Spags is a very traditional guy. He's the slowest linebacker, the least athletic guy who can command
I,
the middle of the defense for you.
Yeah.
so the Arvell Reese is going to be a fine player. I think the Abdul Carter comparison, if you compare him to like 3/4 of Abdul Carter's athletic ability, I would agree with you. Abdul Carter was an alien athlete wise. Dude's a freak of nature. So, and Arvel's a great athlete, but Abdul Carter was scary to watch on the field with the way his athletic explosive ability. And I'm not talking combine numbers. I'm talking watching it translate to the field of play.
Yeah, I
So,
think Carter definitely played with more like violence in his game. Like you felt the explosive violence. Like Reese
yes.
was very technical too. I think so. I hear what you're saying.
Um,
They're
and
both great different styles.
and then Sonny, I I would be fine with it at 9. Everything else is gone. Like if you look down and it's like him and like Caleb Downs and like random broken wide receiver or whatever. I would be fine with Sonny at 9 because I think you can use him as a true like they used Willie Gay. Except I don't think he
But they didn't
overruns the
use
ball
Willie
as
Gay.
much.
That's the problem. They didn't really use
Well,
Willie
they
Gay.
tried to, and I love Willie, but Willie also would sometimes accidentally run past things, and I don't think you're going to have that problem with Sonny. He didn't really have any of those kind of issues at Ohio State. He was very sure in the tackling portion of his game. He seemed to process at a really high level as far as what the offense was doing and how those were moving. He's one that I'm interested in strictly if worst case scenario draft board happens, because also I do think that maybe you look at getting out of a contract coming up here soon at the linebacker position that you can probably get out of. So I would be fine with, and there's actually 2 of them, and you asked one of them to take like a $3 million pay cut this year, and he did. So,
Well, this should be the last year of Drew's deal period, I think, right? So either way you going.
Yes, it is.
I mean, yeah, either way you're going to need more.
I was mostly talking about Nick Bolton.
Yeah.
But Sonny Styles is a guy who can make. He also, the other thing, watching him when he was at Ohio State, he can make the momentum game changing type play. He can give you that at the linebacker spot. He can be a legitimate difference maker and do some different things at that position that not a lot of guys can do. That's a very difficult position to really move a needle on in a big way. Because I mean, we talk about it. Defensive linemen, corners. Those are like priority A, priority B on defense, right? Your D line, especially your edges and your corners, and then you even move down to where like D tackle is probably more important. Safety is probably higher valued and easier to make bigger impact plays on the game. And linebacker is a lot of it is like what Spags loves about Nick Bolton. Make sure everything's called correctly. Make sure everything's lined up correctly. Be there to support your big play teammates. Not to say Nick hasn't made big plays. Go back to the Super Bowl with the fumbles and all this stuff. He's made huge plays. I'm not discounting any of that, but it's hard to be a Fred Warner type consistent needle mover at that position, and Sonny Styles has the athletic ability and the skill set probably to be one of those guys. So I would not be upset about Sonny Styles at 9 if the board goes, well, it's offensive tackle or Sonny Styles. I'm taking Sonny Styles, thanks.
So then there's the next tier, right, of linebacker, because you have those 2 guys who are top 10, top 15 picks, pretty guaranteed. Then you have the next tier, guys that you might even talk about at pick 29 for the Chiefs. Guys, I think there's 2. Yeah, I'd say, and Tom can, I guess, correct me. Tom can really evaluate, but C.J. Allen and Jacob Rodriguez are, I think, those 2 fringe round 1, early round 2 guys that could sneak into that conversation. Jacob Rodriguez, I think, being the more enticing option, one of those Texas Tech guys that was really impressive last year. Really super versatile dude, good athleticism to him. Definitely, he fits the more of the mold of what I would see a Chiefs linebacker doing. More of a Mike linebacker type of guy that you can use in a lot of ways. I like Jacob Rodriguez a lot. C.J. Allen, I'm not as familiar with, but he's a defensive player from Georgia. So
Southern.
He's probably
Georgia
going to be
Southern,
pretty good.
isn't he?
Yeah. I think
Georgia Southern?
Isn't CJ Allen from Georgia Southern? I'm pretty sure.
Just Georgia.
it's Georgia.
Just
He was
Georgia.
at Georgia before, so.
Okay.
He was at Georgia Southern. I was like, Georgia, there ain't no Southern on
I was
Georgia.
like, wait a minute. Well,
Georgia already is
there he
Southern.
is.
Is that
It
what
was
you
just
mean?
before Georgia.
Let's talk CJ Allen first because I think he is a name that people know. Obviously, plays for a big team with Georgia. I need to do a little bit deeper of a dive. I've watched, I think, 2 cut ups of his. I would put him in a similar conversation. I think he's more of an athlete, but a similar like we were just saying, he's the guy who is going to make everything else work so your teammates can make the splashes. He's going to be the guy who's going to stay in position, who's going to make the calls, who's going to be that. I think he has the potential to make those plays when they're drawn up for him. I don't like. Yeah, I think the thing that I like about him is he plays with just a. He's very willing to work through the garbage of the field. That's how Mike Mayock used to say it, right? Moving through blocks, moving around blocks. I think he can get stronger with it, but he's willing to be there. I think that I don't love. I don't love him in coverage. I think sometimes he it just is stiff, especially like zone. He can survive, but I think if you're asking him to man up on anybody, we're in a rough spot. So um, Jacob Rodriguez is my second favorite linebacker out of Texas right now. And that's big praise because I love Jacob Rodriguez. I think that he has some special traits, specifically his ability to in coverage and um, forcing fumbles. I think he's got a just ridiculous fumble rate. Like does the peanut punch really well. We talk about a playmaker at linebacker. That's Jacob Rodriguez. There are a few times where the criticisms are he overruns and he has kind of shorter arms and you can see that with the tackles sometimes. I'm less worried about that because I think a lot of times that like missed tackle that stuff like he's getting there and then somebody else is cleaning up and sometimes that's what you need. Um, I think that he surprised me with how well he got around blockers and guards and like just you can tell he knows the position well. Um, and he just plays with like this energy. Like he is an absolute spark plug player. Like he is gonna hype up the guys around him. He's gonna bring leadership. He's gonna bring energy, and he just makes. I mean, like there were conversations at Senior Bowls about him, like in the like the pass drills, the linebacker versus running back drills, which are always like are very favorable to the running backs. And Jacob Rodriguez is making interceptions in those drills, and they're like that doesn't happen. Like that's not. It's designed purposely to like not be a thing where you can get interceptions, but he just is so good in coverage. I don't know if the Chiefs would know what to do with a linebacker like that. They'd be like, we didn't know that they could do that. I thought they just stood there, watched guys run by, and then tackled them. So it's weird because I just said all these nice things about Jacob Rodriguez. I don't know if he's a guy that Spags is going to want. I'll just say it bluntly. I think he almost falls into a. I think the concern is the tackling and the physical size for him, and the short arms being the big one, and just the production is elite in college, but it's hard to imagine it translating that way. But yeah, he can also be a little feast or famine. I think sometimes he was a little too aggressive, but yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would take him at 29. I don't know. I wouldn't love that pick. I wouldn't hate it. I'd, all right, there's the juice and there's, but I think it'd be easier to swallow that at 40. And even then, that would be kind of tough because I like the other Texas linebacker better. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Anthony
Jacob
Hill Jr.
Rodriguez. my Jacob Rodriguez analysis is this: ball player. I mean, every time I turned on a Texas Tech this game this year, like
He was making
within
play.
2 minutes of the defense being on the screen, he did something stupid, ridiculous. Like what did he just do? How did he make that play? Okay, like every time I turned them on this year, he's I would 40. I would be fine with. 29 might be a little rich, just for some of the things Tom mentioned, because I do think obviously there are some holes in some areas, but one, I think he's a guy that, by the way that all of his teammates and coaching staff talk about him, he's one of the hardest working people in the building. So I think some of that can probably get cleaned up with some increased and improved coaching stuff in the NFL level, and just more development with more stuff with as he does it more. But yeah, I like Jacob Rodriguez a lot. Like I said, I'm looking for a needle mover at linebacker at this point. That if you didn't get my drift with the Sonny Styles conversation, I'm fine with good steady linebackers. That's fine. We have a couple of those. I need somebody that does something for this defense besides, hey, half a step left, big boy, half a step left.
Yeah, I think that's why he's probably not going to make it to 40, unfortunately. I think he kind of reminds me of the same arc as like Carson Schlesinger last year, where he like fringe first rounder, and then he ended up going first in the second round to the Browns, 33 overall. Like, I think he's got enough upside, and like you guys said, like there's enough there that he's not going to be there at 40, in my opinion. I think, but I do think, I like Tom said, I don't know if it's necessarily a player that they would want, just because, unfortunately, when you have Nick Bolton, he kind of fills as much as you would rather. I mean, as much as I would rather have Jacob Rodriguez probably out there instead. I mean, even Jacob Rodriguez and Nick Bolton as a tandem on
Certainly in passing
and
downs.
nickel packages and stuff like that, it'd be cool. But it's just, when you have Nick Bolton there, that does kind of restrict the amount of reps that you're going to get out of a quote unquote middle linebacker guy. You'd have to teach him well a little bit. I know they barely even used Leo Chenal as a Sam linebacker, so they really wouldn't do a lot of that. So the way that the Chiefs use their linebackers is kind of weird, anyways. And if you look at their linebacker room currently, I mean, I just don't know if he's filling the roles that they might be looking for. But you never know. I'm always down for an upgrade to some of these positions. You have to make some investment soon at linebacker with the Drew Tranquil not, probably going to be here next year. Jeffrey Bassa is still a complete unknown, and then everyone else on the roster is just special teamers. So, definitely got to make a little bit of investment, but I don't know if you're spending a first rounder on them. So, Anthony Hill, Tom, another Texas, not a Texas Tech linebacker, but just a Longhorn linebacker.
Yeah, let's start with the fact that Anthony Hill Jr. is from the hometown of the greatest rock band to ever live, Denton, Texas, home of Bowling for Soup. Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, it's a joke. It's fine."
I love Bowling for Soup, but Jared's one of my favorite. Side note: Jared's an excellent social media follow. If you don't follow Jared on social media, he's spectacular.
Yeah, shout out Garrett. So Bowling for Soup was a band in the early 2000s.
I've listened to a couple of their songs. I've listened to a couple of their songs.
Okay, so Anthony Hill Jr.
101. I know that song. Come on, it's like their most popular song. I know it.
That's not their most popular song, but Anthony Hill Jr.
1985.
Yeah, young player. He was not born in 1985. He'll be 21. He just turned 21 in February.
And one of the few juniors, right? One of the few early declares for this draft. There's not as many.
Yeah.
There's not many of the young kids in this draft class.
Yeah, I just pulled up his wiki to confirm. Also, he was born in Wichita, so played in high school ball in Denton, but actually born in Wichita. Anyways,
look at that.
When we talk about like guys who I think are getting overlooked because they've been a name for a while, the top of my list is Anthony Hill Jr. I love this kid's game. I think he has everything you want. If you talk about a difference maker, a needle, if he goes on day 2, like somebody's getting their new starting middle linebacker I think if he wasn't in a draft class with two freak athletes ahead of him, and then like we just talked about Jacob Rodriguez, like he just got some really wild traits, like, and that speaks to the quality of this class. Like last year, Anthony Hill Jr. would have been my number one linebacker by a pretty healthy amount. I think my favorite thing is when he arrives at the tackle, you feel it, right? He's there, he hits. I think the way that he takes angles, the way he reacts. I know there's some people who think that they kind of criticize some of the reaction. I don't see it the same. I think that he can be um, a little aggressive, but he's so long and he uses that length. Like even when he overshoots, sometimes he's able to like at least grab a guy's jersey and hold on. Um, I think that he's got this prototypical build. He's got the prototypical athleticism. Like, and the other thing is he's been in charge of that Texas defense, I think, for 2 years now as the full time starter, and just he's the dude. And I love his skills in coverage. I think he's highly underrated in coverage. Great ball production. Can do it all of it. They blitzed him a lot. Yeah. I think even if I would say my biggest thing with him is I would like him to have a little bit more definition, a little bit more bulk in his lower body and in his arms. Like I think he plays strong enough for where he's at in college, but he probably needs to bulk up a little bit. But even when he's like, coming off a block or whatever, he uses his long arms. He's got 32 and 3/8 inch arms and almost 10-inch hands. Um, he uses it just really well to fight off blockers. Yeah, I think I'm like, this kid is going to be so good, and we're not talking about him enough. We probably shouldn't, but
Yeah.
and like, even when he's going, like when he's rolling off of his coverage assignment to get clean something up underneath, he just arrives in such a hurry, and I love the way he hits people. Like it sounds weird, but it's like it's not it's the you're gonna feel that in the morning, but you don't know that you're gonna feel it in the morning. Like it's just such a solid tackle, and he doesn't give up a lot of yards, on at contact.
He
And I just if he wasn't buried underneath two really freak athletes, and then, like I said, Jacob Rodriguez, I just think this would be a bigger conversation. Um, I'm a huge fan of this guy. I'm trying to pull up his stats because I know he's got
so
quite a few. Um, and he's got they blitzed him a lot. Like he had 8 sacks last year, 4 sacks this year. Um, and I take it back. He's been a 3-year starter. Did he start in 2023? Um, Yeah, he appeared 14 games as a freshman and racked up 67 tackles. Um, yeah, I just think he's got the juice. That's really
he
my
he hits. To Tom's point, he hits like hard. I didn't watch a ton of Texas this year. I watched more of them last year, but I watched them some this year just because everybody had to watch Arch do whatever that was for the season. Um, he's to your point. It's very technically sound tackling, but it's also you talked about it, the thumper kind of tackling. He hits hard. That's the ones that's like, oh, where'd those bruised ribs come from? Why do those like a day or two afterwards? You're like, why? I can't. This feels, and then you watch the tape and you hear the thump when he hits you, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why that hurts like that. That dude
yeah
is solid rock. That sucked. And that as a linebacker, that's what you want, and that's the other part that Tom mentioned at the end is his pass rush ability. Uh, he's got a couple of moves which usually linebackers aren't a lot of their move is they didn't know I was coming and I beat them through the hole. He's got
hmm
he can get off a block. He can take a little contact on his way through on the blitz and still
yeah.
hurt quarterbacks. So
He can
I
if you need to move him around the edge. I mean, if depending on the alignment and stuff. Like, um,
one thing I
yeah,
don't
last
know if I love is his coverage. He's fine. He's not elite or anything spectacular in coverage, but he's better than a lot of the coverage we have, so it would still be an improvement. I just
Yeah.
I'm not as big of a fan of his coverage game as I am of say Rodriguez or Sonny.
Mhm. I think so 2014. This is like I was looking at kind
24.
of comparing stats. I'm gonna jump back 16 and
2000
a half.
win, Tom?
What? I'm
You said
sorry,
He born
2014.
in
2014.
Yeah,
2014?
My bad.
2024.
16 and a half tackles in 2024.
Tom was shouting out his birth year there, I believe, with the
No,
2014
he
stuff.
was
No, just kidding.
2005. But yeah, it just again, I think that I yeah, I hear what you're saying about the coverage. I'm more
I'm not,
comfortable.
like I said, it's still better than 99.5% of the coverage we've had in Kansas City at the linebacker position
Yeah,
for like the last 5 years. So, but it's
I'm
just, if you compare him to the rest of this class, I think that's probably the area he's weakest in comparison to the other two more traditional linebackers. Reese not really being a traditional linebacker, being more of that
yeah,
outside off ball edge linebacker.
yeah. I would say I would take Anthony Hill before I would take Jacob Rodriguez. And I love Jacob Rodriguez, but I just
I
think
think
there's something
Really?
special with
I think he
Hill.
stylistically fits with the Chiefs a little bit better for what we would need right now, right? I mean, I feel like he's going to be a guy that you could maybe use more as a Swiss Army knife, a guy that you can blitz from certain packages. I think, I don't mind his pass rushing or his pass coverage abilities. I think that's something that he's athletic enough to make it happen with. And if you're looking for, I mean, you kind of have a couple will linebacker prospects on the team already, but this is a guy that I think you can add a little bit more a little more tools to the cupboard, and I feel like he'd fit more of what we're missing right now on the
Yeah.
Chiefs.
I would flip it. If I'm replacing Drew Tranquil, give me Jacob Rodriguez. If I'm replacing
Okay.
Nick Bolton, Anthony Hill. That's how I see it.
Well, we're not going to replace Nick Bolton anytime soon, Tom. So I hate to break
Don't
it
we
to
have
you.
on his contract after this season? Pretty sure we do.
I don't think it matters. I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to say, "All right, Nick, come on down, and get a new contract signed real quick." It feels like
Uh,
it feels like we're going to be stuck with Nick Bolton for the long haul, which I feel like you should try to look for a guy who's going to be more of a will replacement, who's going to give you more snaps in dime
yeah,
packages and stuff like that.
that's a conversation for another episode. But
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
got more linebackers to talk about. Not
Yeah,
too
so
many really.
bridging past Anthony Hill, another guy with a familiar name and played ball in a familiar place around us. Josiah Trotter from Mizzou. A lot of Mizzou fans probably in Chiefs Kingdom. Obviously, we have a Mizzou lineage in the linebacker room already, and this guy has a lot of lineage in the NFL period, with his dad being a
Mhm.
longtime linebacker, his older brother linebacker. I mean, the whole family seems like it's just been linebackers, right? I mean, they
Yep.
a lot of linebackers in the family. Josiah Trotter, though, what are we thinking about him? I wasn't a fan of his older brother coming out as much, but Josiah, he seems pretty good. He seems all right.
Yeah, I think he's coming out a little bit younger. He's a redshirt sophomore, so 2 years of college film. Um, there is the bloodline, the bloodline, the
Oh no,
pedigree.
no, it's fine. It's a
It's a
bloodline.
bloodline.
Like
It's a
they
linebacker bloodline.
it's a
Um,
mold. I swear to God, they have a mold at the Trotter house where they just go in and then
yeah,
put them in the little mold. They plop them in,
Put him in the pizza
spit
oven,
it, get it
cook him
ready.
up.
yeah,
Pop.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here comes another one. What size is
yeah,
he? Oh, the exact same size and
yeah,
athletic ability as all of his other relatives. Crazy.
I feel like he
yeah.
also fits the Mizzou linebacker mold pretty well as well. If we're just talking about molds.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I've got some mold growing in my foot, and I don't know if that's relevant,
Hey,
but
yo.
um,
I think
yeah,
that's unfortunate, frankly, and I
yeah,
think you
no,
should
I was,
probably
there's a
put
joke.
some cream on that or something.
We're having fun. Okay, so I'm
We're
actually looking up
having
his brother now. I think he's probably a guy who I wouldn't. He's a bigger back linebacker. I think he plays a more physical brand of football. I think um, there's a lot of projection there. my biggest thing is the athleticism is kind of the question mark. He didn't run, and I just if you're looking for a guy to be that, guard thumper type, I mean, very much in the. I don't want to compare him to Nick Bolton because I don't. I think he's
Not similar though.
a little bit more juice, but like the biggest thing is it's more projection here. Looking at that, but I will say, people around him really, really speak highly of him. Obviously, he's um, the son of a player that Andy Reid is very familiar with. Um, but yeah, he's a very I think he's more explosive than he is fast. Like he's not really going to be chasing people down, but if he can get in front of the play and get downhill, then he's good. Yeah, he's fun to watch. He's fun to get into. I think I want
A lot of Nick Bolton in him. A lot of Nick Bolton in him. I ain't gonna lie to you.
is a fair. Who he reminds me of a little bit, and this is a hard comparison because they're just at different places in their career. Um, is there's a kid who came out of North Carolina. Peyton Wilson went to the Steelers. That's who he reminds me of. Probably more athletic than we're giving him credit for. Hits like a Mack truck, but Wilson's thing was injuries and all that. But I just feel like Trotter's a tough one because there's not. I mean, there's tape, but there's yeah, we gotta do a little bit more. I think there's just a lot of projection there. But I do like the player. If he was, I think if he's your guy in round 3, I wouldn't be terribly upset with it again. To look at how the board falls, and we're talking about these linebackers. Obviously, there's just this is what we're looking at as this is a pick probably more for next year than this year. And we talk about teams that we probably want some more of those. Of course, if you take Anthony Hill with any of those picks, he's just going to become the best linebacker in the NFL, and that'll be fine. But
yes, exactly. Let's keep it moving. Jake Golday, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's has a lot of decent linebacker or just defensive prospects in general this year. I feel like they had a pretty fun defense. Obviously, we have a little bit of familiarity with that pipeline with Brian Cook and Travis Kelce and a couple guys. Cincinnati Bearcats. What do we think about Jake Golday?
I don't get it. that's my my take with. I mean, I know people who just really love him and have him as 3 or 4, and he's big, he's tough.
A little bit of a Sam linebacker type role,
Yeah. I think that's where he's at. I think he's the guy that you're gonna just send in there to do some of the dirty work. Yeah. He's one that I was like, I wanted to like him more than I did. He tested all right at the combine, but yeah, I think he's definitely more of a Sam. I don't like him inside as much. I think that he can get kind of got caught in misdirection and moved around, looped around, but yeah, he definitely made some big plays for Cincinnati, and he brought a lot of energy. So I don't know. I think linebacker is one of those positions where if you can make a big play and bring a lot of energy and really revitalize your defense, or you can just do your job. And I think he's more that guy who looks to make some of those bigger plays. Yeah, I just think his pursuit speed worries me a little bit. Similar to Trotter, he ran at the combine. Galladay did, and I mean a 4.6 isn't terrible for his size, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I should like him more than I do, but I just felt like if he's in a position to make the play, he'll make it. But I don't think he's going to go out and make plays himself. So he's a very do your job kind of guy. Not to use that cliche just because him and I share the same amount of skin pigment, but very do your job kind of cleanup guy.
So Trotter is. I think the thing that Trotter has is the instincts. Is what I'm interested in most in Trotter. Galladay is. or Gold. How did you pronounce it, Garrett? Because
Jake
Galladay feels
Golday.
wrong because it's not two L's. Yeah,
It's
Golday.
Gold Day. It's
It's
gold.
not,
It's
and
spelled
there's
Golday.
no. That's it. Yeah. I just want to call him Galladay because it feels like it should be
Yeah,
Galladay. I don't know
he's
why.
no Kenny Galladay. Just Jake Galladay.
He's interesting. Like Tom said, I don't. He's fine. He was.
He's
He's one of
fine.
the guys that I was like, he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah.
Tom, what about Torian York?
I
Because I've gone back and forth and I can't decide where I
oh, good.
stand.
That makes two of us. If you didn't tell me
By the
anything,
way,
if
Garrett, did you say A&M was in the Big 12 earlier? Did I hear that
No, it's
correctly?
the Texas Tech was. We were talking about
Oh, I was
Jacob
gonna say
Rodriguez.
that's. I thought, okay, I thought you said A&M
We
earlier.
haven't
um,
we haven't talked Texas A&M all show. I think.
if you didn't tell me um, any of his measurables, I would like New York a lot more than I do. Um, I would say this. I think he's a day three
He's
kid, and I think if you take
5'11",
him,
226,
I
30-inch
think if you
arm.
take
Yeah, he's not
on
very
day
big.
three, probably going to get a surprisingly good player. Um,
Special teams,
I,
probably.
I, he is just. He looks perpetually like he's been shot out of a cannon. I think he's better in coverage than people give him credit for. I think it's just a matter of is he going to be able to be as productive as a tackler at that size in the NFL? Because again, 30-inch arms, 8.5-inch hands, smaller frame, 5'11", 226, very similar to those concerns about um, Jacob Rodriguez, but maybe even a little bit more so because I don't think York doesn't have the same um, kind of instincts in terms of like creating turnovers, but um, I think at
He's
worst,
extremely strong and violent. So
oh yeah, such a like I said. If you didn't tell me any of the measurables or I didn't know any of the other stuff about him, like he's such a fun player to watch, and he just like you would think that he's a better athlete than he is, which is a good thing. Like that's a compliment to him. Um, but I think that at the NFL, I keep saying I think at the NFL level, it is difficult to make up for that gap a little bit more. So at minimum, I would say he's a guy who is going to give your linebacker room a good rotational piece, good depth. But if you told me he was a starting, linebacker in this league for 10 plus years, like I wouldn't bet against that. I think he's got the natural traits. It's just going to be a matter of if he can make up for some of those physical limitations with like with instincts, with technique and discipline and anticipation is going to be a big one for him. And he does. I think he anticipates and reacts really well, which is really what carries a lot of his game. I like him as a player.
I don't
Again,
know.
probably a day guy for me.
5'11",
all right,
226. I don't know if he's 10-year starter at
I
linebacker. I just don't know.
I
I just
was
don't know.
I because I've been in back and forth because he's definitely undersized, but
Mhm.
the Shrine Bowl was great. He was great at the Shrine Bowl, like highlight reel type stuff. There was a
Mhm.
very poor running back who I feel very bad for that tried to pick him up in a pass pro rep and got destroyed. Um, but then he put up 25 reps on the bench at the combine, and so he's extremely strong. He's just not very big. And then I couldn't decide if I understand like arm length is one thing, but like just overall not being very big, not very tall, not very long. It, it
Mhm.
just seems like it's going to be tough for him in at the next level.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, it's he's going to have to rely on some of those instincts and other characteristics to get him to be successful. But I wouldn't bet against him just because I think he's a good kid
Oh
and
yeah, and he's violent. Like he's a violent player. It's fun to watch. He
Mhm.
is very strong, but
Hmm.
it's gonna take a lot of that and some, like Tom said, some serious instinct and technique because as Garrett mentioned, 5'11", 226. He's not very big.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
tough.
that does a little bit of a detriment. Let's talk about another Texas player, Texas linebacker of the Christian variety, Texas Christian University, Caleb Elarms Orr. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I nailed that one. Elarms Orr. Really good athletic testing. And right off the bat, I can tell you that he had a 9.71 RAS.
Hmm.
So that's cool. That's impressive. What do we think about old KEO? As you could. I know we like our hyphenated names.
You
We
know,
like hyphenated names.
they
also
do, but
calling him Keo would work.
yeah, they don't
KEO.
work out. The hyphenated names don't work out for Kansas City, so that was my first red flag. Obviously athletic. I think if you wanted to find a guy to fill the kind of Willie Gay, Leo Chenal, athletic freak who may not be the most natural at the position kind of role, that's not fair to Leo. Leo is
Leo
just
was
not
just a freak. Just a
the
freak.
react. Yeah, um, I think I like I like him as potential. I think he's going to get a little. I think he's getting a little hype because he had such a like crazy combine with the 4.47 and a 40-inch vertical. Good athlete. I thought he played a little soft at times, especially like again working through the flow of a play. I just felt like he wanted to go around guys more than through, or even just to scrape over them. Um, I yeah, I think it's another case of a player who's relying more on athleticism than knowledge and instinct. I think there's a role for those types of players at linebacker. You could do a little more with them, but I don't know if I would be comfortable with him as a down to down starter with his current state. Like give him some time, but
Hmm.
I he's more just he's an impressive athlete. Not yeah, I think there's probably some more room to grow for him, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if I want. If it's day three, I'm okay with it. I think he's going to go on day two, and I think that's a little rich for me. So,
Probably fair. Probably fair. I'll just keep throwing names. As we go. We're already like an hour 40 minutes into this thing. So if you're still listening, we appreciate you. We appreciate you rocking with this one. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit longer going over so many prospects, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Deontay Lawson out of Alabama. Tom, he's the guy. A lot of multi-year starter at Alabama, was running mates with Jihad Campbell for a couple years there. Not quite the prospect that Jihad Campbell was, but I mean to start on Alabama for 3-4 years is impressive of itself.
yeah, I he was a name that popped up, and I was like, all right, because I was kind of looking for that next tier linebackers, and you can talk about what the Chiefs like, or you just look at linebackers in general. My concern with Lawson is he's just kind of lanky. Um, and which again the length can be good from the wingspan perspective, but 6'3", 226. I mean that's not a lot of weight on a pretty tall frame, and I just meh. Especially
Meh.
after I go watch Jihad Campbell last year, and you see a guy who's really physical
Yeah, it's a pretty
and
stark difference between the two prospects. Yeah.
yeah, so you're like he's not on the
Yeah.
same level. Yeah, that's good. It would have been it was an opportunity for him to kind of step in and showcase, and I feel like he didn't move the needle too much for me. Probably a guy
Mhm.
who's going
Mhm.
around depth piece, special teams guy, solid athlete, good athlete, not great athlete. Um, there just wasn't a lot about him that made me go, oh yeah, like I want this guy on my team.
Right.
But he can play, but there wasn't something about him that made me go, oh yeah, like this is really exciting and gotta have him. I
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
I
would rather get Toreen York than Deontay Lawson if we're in a vacuum. At least there's
I
more.
have
Come
two
more.
names.
All right, I'm ready.
I have two. I have two names, Tom, and one is Harold Perkins Jr. out of LSU, and I'm mostly just curious as to like what are teams gonna do with him? because he's not. How do I play it? He's not linebacker sized. He's like safety sized,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Because he's like 6'1", like 225. I think they list him at 220. Yeah,
It's like test that
222.
222. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
so like, great. Is he a nickel linebacker? Like extra DB line? Like what? I'm kind of surprised he came out as a junior and didn't go back for his senior year. Two,
Mm-hmm.
doing so, I don't think he's going in the first 2 rounds. Do you?
I would.
Well, so I'm asking because like if you're coming out as a junior,
Uh-huh.
especially in the NIL era, you're a star at LSU. You can get paid.
Yeah.
So you're a
Yeah.
star and you're a smaller, non-traditional-ish linebacker,
That's being generous. He
and you're
is.
coming out in a deep linebacker class a year early, and I don't think you're going until like day 3. And
Yeah.
probably not early day 3, probably like mid day 3.
There's.
I don't understand much of the process portion of it, and I also have no idea what teams are going to do with him as far as actually
Yeah.
where he fits on the field, because
Yeah. What I would do
he's just
if
not
he
a
showed up.
traditional linebacker size.
Yeah. If he showed up in Kansas City, I would just. I think the first thing I would do is make sure his cleats fit really well, and that they're very
See if
comfortable.
he can play
And then I'd spin him
safety.
around and get him out of town. Just run as far as
See if he-
I. He is when we talk earlier. I mentioned like, can you do both or can you do neither? Unfortunately,
Neither.
I think he can do either. And I think that's hard because he's
Yeah.
a good athlete. He was at the Senior Bowl, and they raved about him as a young man. He needs to focus on sticking on the special teams and figuring it out. Let him either bulking up and playing. He just doesn't. I don't see him with the instinct. Like he's like wants to be a pass rusher, but isn't built like one. Uh, Move him to off-ball linebacker. Looks lost. I mean, just at times they're just deer in the headlights kind of thing. He's got room. He's got to grow. He's got growing to do. I hope that he does because the athletic profile, the athleticism is really nice. But again, he's just such an in-between player on so many parts. Wiry build, not physical in the run defense, but reacts pretty well. Like is willing. He's just weird. He's like um, it's like if it's the equivalent of the Sims games when you would hit shuffle random whatever. It's like that, but with a football player. It's got all these kind of weird parts.
Doesn't really
you
fit
said,
anything the Chiefs would, I feel like, ever do. He's one of those things that like
I don't
I
think
feel
he
like
fits anything anybody's really going to do with him at
well, yeah,
linebacker.
I feel like there's
Yeah.
some teams that there's some defensive coordinators or some that they're real experimental. They really try to do like the hybrid things where they have position. I think, and especially like the Seahawks probably made it like really popular where it's like kind of positionless football. Defensive players, they can kind of play everything and nothing. But it's like you said, if he's so undersized like that, like. You can blitz him, I suppose. You can like blitz him a lot and do stuff like that. But it's like, what's the real, you have to really, I feel like you'd have to really know like how to cater his game, like what he can do for like the rest of your game plan. It's a really really specific build and archetype of a player that, like I said, whenever we talk about guys like this, it's like, this is not anything of Spags Alley. I mean,
No.
I feel like he'd have more chance sticking as a fullback on the Chiefs than he would as an actual linebacker for us. Like Spags look at him and be like, nah, just go lead block for Kenneth Walker or something. Like we're not doing this.
They have a better chance of
Like I
bringing
said,
back
the main
Chuck
reason
PK.
that's fair. The main reason I asked the question is the whole setup of everything. Like I said, he's leaving a year early. The NIL era, the money, where the draft pick is likely going to be. It just all seemed very odd to me
I
because
could see a bad team drafting
watching
him in
him.
round 2. I could see a bad team drafting
That's
him in round
fine.
2. You know?
Yeah, I can see yeah, that's great. Enjoy
The
your time
Raider.
with the Jets or the
Yeah,
Raiders or the
exactly.
Cardinals. Like, have
Yeah,
fun.
the Cardinals feels like the place that he would go.
Yeah. Well,
They
it's not
love
like
just
they've never
drafting
done
the
that
most
before. It's
random builds.
yeah. So, and then the other guy that covers my Harold Perkins Jr. confusion because I was like, maybe I'm just not seeing something. Maybe I don't understand this. And then Malachi Lawrence out of UCF.
Ooh, he's more of an edge. He's like,
Are they? Is that what? Because he's a big boy. He's 6'4", 260. But
Yeah, I think he's
yes,
an
I
edge.
think,
I think he might
yeah,
be an
he's
edge.
got it.
well, I hear you. Are you saying the same thing about Kieron Crawford then?
Yes,
Okay.
they
Okay.
might be listed
I'm just
in some
curious
places
because
as linebackers
they're
because
both
for
bigger, right?
all that.
And that's the same
Yeah,
thing with Sapp out of Florida too. Sapp is also an edge, but
yeah,
is listed as a
he's a down
linebacker, I think.
linebacker, well,
Yeah.
or lineman.
So,
So
Here's another linebacker that I have
okay.
for you. And I feel like this one's a pretty automatic one, right? And I think we'll all know why in a second. Jack Kelly, linebacker, BYU.
yep, yeah,
BYU.
future chief,
Yeah.
future first round, pick number
Future special
29.
team
Come on
captain.
down. No,
Pretty good RAS score, 9.81.
yeah,
Future special teams captain, Jack
Yep.
Kelly,
yeah,
BYU.
Yeah.
probably. I mean, he did a lot for
Hey,
himself
have
at
you
the
seen your
combine.
predecessor? His name was Jack also. His last name was Cochran. Do you want to know what his name
Yeah,
was before that? The guy before that, his name was also Jack. Except we just kind of.
Yeah, does fit the
Remember
Jack
we were talking
mold.
about the mold earlier with the Trotters?
yeah,
There's
Yeah.
also a BYU linebacker mold blueprint in Kansas City where they just
yeah.
pick one up, slap him into the special teams captaincy, and then move along down the
Come
line
my
and grab
child.
another one with the exact same profile about 4 years
Mhm.
later.
Come, my child. Let me show you the ways of the Ben Neiman. Um,
Exactly.
Yep.
yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't watched a lot of Jack Kelly. He's a guy who I thought was probably. I mean,
You're gonna watch
genuinely.
him.
I'll just be honest. I haven't watched any of them. I'll just be straight up. I've heard about him. They talked about him a
Don't
lot
matter.
after the combine.
Hey, doesn't matter if you've
Not
watched him now. You're gonna watch him after the draft because he's gonna be suiting up in red and gold. You know,
he
it's
will
just
probably.
happen.
Yeah, I would say he'd be a UDFA, but I think he had a really. He's probably going to be a 7th or 6th round pick. Like
He had a really good testing.
his
You know.
was good. His measurables are solid. Like I think a team's going to go. Yeah, he's a guy who can bring in special. It might be us. It might be us drafting him late on day 3. But
Yeah, probably or priority free agent for
well,
sure.
nothing there that I'm like, oh yeah, it's so exciting. I
Yeah.
want Jack. Kelly.
Okay.
So.
Couple other.
I got one more, and
Oh, yeah.
Keyshawn
Go ahead.
Elliott out of Arizona State.
Ooh, good choice. Um,
I liked him. I watched
Yeah.
him play 3 games last year. I watched 3 Arizona State games start to finish. He jumped off the screen to me every time. Not necessarily anything absurd. It's not like watching Jacob Rodriguez and you're like, what was
yeah,
to just happen? But he made several plays, always kind of around the ball in the right spot. Decent athlete. So but again, this time I'm with Garrett. Big 12 defenses, I get a little apprehensive when it comes to corners and linebackers. Defensive lineman is a different thing, but corners and linebackers, I get a little gun shy about that
Yeah.
with that conference.
Mm.
He's another one, and he's intriguing, but I'm not. 5th round, 6th round, I'm fine. I feel like I'm fine. I'm not. I'm not sure if I'm not seeing something, if I'm in the right range, but
Yeah.
he's interesting. He's got a couple of things. I wish he had a little better feet, I think, in some instances. But
I also like Keyshawn Elliott. I think I'm going to stop saying I think before my brain explodes. Garrett, will you do me a favor? Just go back and edit out every time I've said I think in this podcast.
Tom, I'd be here for 2 hours editing this thing.
the episode.
I'd be here for longer than the episode is, just sitting there editing it out. But hey,
Yeah,
that's all right. That's all right.
here's the deal: Keyshawn Elliott is gonna be a guy who starts some games in the league. I feel like he's gonna be a guy who ends up getting drafted by the like Eagles and just ends up being their starting linebacker, for a long time. I big, uh, well built. I think he hits hard. I'm with you on like wanting him to be a little quicker to react, a little bit more athletic in that sense. It's hard for me
It's
to
almost
tell
like
if
he
it.
hesitates.
Yeah, and that's why like it's hard to tell if it's a speed issue or a processing issue. I think he's very heavy, like footed, but like it's just like he's a bulky guy. He's
I mean, he
he's
is like 6'2", 240 or 6'2",
yeah,
235 or
he's
whatever it is.
again that thumper build. If you have him in on early downs, you're really going to maximize what he does best. I don't know how comfortable you are with him in coverage, but if you are in a spot where you need him to be there, I think you can lean on it a little bit. Just be very strategic about it, because it's not that he's a bad athlete. It's his hips just
It's
feel
his
stiff.
feet.
Like it's hard. Yeah, it's his hips and feet. It's hard for him to like align it up and like to switch and move, and it's like that lateral, that side to side.
He
Um,
feels. You described it really well with the whole he's heavy footed. He feels like the hesitation. I don't know if it's just that takes it a half a second to get that big old foot moving or what it is. But that
yeah,
the footwork I was talking about earlier, his feet get him in trouble in coverage because if he
mhm,
gets turned any kind of the wrong way, he has trouble getting his feet out of the way to turn back the other way if they
yeah,
go back across his face. And it's like it it's very weird. It's a very odd thing because other
mhm.
times he looks pretty fluid on the field, except for when he has to start trying to turn a little more in free space where
It
his
looks like he's
own feet
trying
kind
to
of
run
get in
with
his
bowling
way.
shoes on, like the
Yeah,
big floppy bowling
that's a
shoes.
good way.
That's all right. Let's do one more and then let's get out of here because we're almost hitting two
Yeah.
hours. I'm
No,
like,
yeah, we
I
went pretty long. We went pretty long.
you guys can't get enough of me and my draft talk. I've been waiting all year for this.
I don't know. Was there anyone else you haven't talked about yet, Tom, that you wanted to highlight in the linebacking room, or?
Um, let me
That's what
tell
I
you
was going to
what
ask, Garrett. We were on the same page. What
I
do you know? Who knows?
believe. I'm not saying it. I don't.
Plant your flag. Make your
I'll throw.
stand. Who is
I
going to
don't know
be
if I'm.
drafted with the 212th pick in the draft or whatever it is?
I don't know if this will be my flag, but a name that we should know, and we talked about the about Harold Perkins being kind of a tweener. Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh, who played safety for Pittsburgh, is going to come down the linebacker. He's a coverage piece, plays really
He's
physical, really fun. Like he's just a guy that a player that I'm rooting for. I don't know, and I don't think he really fits what the Chiefs like or what the Chiefs do, but he is. I would say if the Chiefs drafted him, I would almost see them using him how they kind of want to use Jamari Connor, like as a big safety jumbo nickel kind of guy. But he
uh
is
huh.
fun. Had a really good Senior Bowl, and people have been raving about him. He's a younger player,
Those
but
pit
yeah, 6 foot.
defenses are nasty.
Yeah,
And
6 foot 220. Not a
was he
big
a
guy,
leader?
but
He was a
uh,
captain, wasn't he, or one of them? I feel like
I
he
don't
was the
know.
leader of their defense is this junior year anyway. I don't know about early on, but I feel like
Yeah,
this last year he was one of the main cogs of that defense, one of the main pieces of that leadership group. He was uh, that Pitt Pitt football has pretty much been the same recipe for like as long as I've been
yeah,
alive. And he fits that mold. I not fun to play against is the best way I could describe him. I think is
yeah. Oh yeah, loves it.
other teams do not enjoy playing against him.
Yeah, I almost wish he had the athleticism to stick at safety. Uh, that would be yeah, that's just it's the hard spot for him. But I think, unlike some other people on like the players we talked about, I think he can do. I think he can do enough at a high enough level that you can find a role for him again as a big nickel kind of Shamari Connor type,
Yeah,
that type of player. So
He's a
keep
willing
him.
combatant in the run game
Yeah,
at minimum. Like he's
you
at
want to keep
minimum a
him.
willing combatant in the game in the run game.
Yeah, you want to keep him in the box, but out of the garbage. So not
Yeah.
floating. But,
that's a
all
quote.
right.
That's a quote right there. One more, real quick before we get out of here, just because this is we skipped over this guy, and he's a little more
Yeah.
notable just because he was on the Indiana Hoosiers. Aiden Fisher, obviously another guy who got a lot of attention this past
Who?
season. The linebacker for Indiana. he's got in the middle of their
Who?
defense over there.
I
Yeah.
was doing a very bad comedic pun, Garrett. I apologize for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I accept your acceptance of that was bad.
Um,
The white guy.
not
Tom,
it
would
for
you
me.
like to chime in on how bad that was, or should we? Since you are
No,
the
I
comedic
just
expert.
not it for me. I mean, he could be the next Cole Christensen or Ben Neiman or like that type of player.
He could. You never know.
Really, yeah. I mean, very
Didn't have
productive
that great of testing.
very very I mean I'm just trying to avoid all the cliche like white player like
You can hit most of them. Yeah, most of the white cliches you can just hit on them real quick.
Here, I'll help you, Tom. He is lackluster.
yeah.
If we're just being
You know
real
who he
about it.
reminds me of? Ben
Every
Boulware. You guys remember Ben Boulware?
is it Ben Bowler
Yes.
or Peter Bowler?
No, Ben Boulware. He was the linebacker for Clemson when they won with Deshaun. When they won with Deshaun Watson. And for some reason he just gives me that vibe because like I remember watching that was a long ass time ago. This is like when I was a sophomore in high school, I think. But I remember watching that game and be like, wow, this like middle linebacker for Clemson's really good. He feels like he's
6
dominating
months
the
ago,
game.
Garrett. What are you talking about?
I feel like he's dominating the game, and then Ben Boulware ended up doing absolutely nothing in the league. Was not productive at all. I don't even think he got drafted. This is kind of similar vibes, national champion, good, a lot of publicity and all that type of stuff. But probably nothing that we need to really worry about as a meaningful draft pick.
I'm surprised you asked about him. There's another. Yeah, I mean,
He's just kind of he's up in the rankings. I mean, he's kind of up in the rankings. So, I mean, he's.
I'll tell you this. He didn't have fun in the playoffs last year, and I vividly remember him being on the field for Jeremiah Love, having fun in the middle of their linebacking group last year. So, look, he's fine. Obviously we all watched all of the college football playoff games. Like I said, lackluster is the nicest way I can put where I'm at with him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything on. I don't know. Indiana as in general. I mean, they have a lot of decent players, but I feel like their defense, especially, is just kind of like scheme. Like the whole scheme just kind of seemed to work better. And
they were
more
just
of a
unit. They were just a whole team. Like that team, they didn't really have any stars per se.
They just worked well as a unit. Yeah.
Obviously, Mendoza is going to be the first overall pick. I don't know that he's the fourth quarterback in last year's draft, probably. But I don't know that he's not the fourth quarterback if he comes out next year. But he's the number one guy this year, and he's going one, so that's great. They're not a lot of stars. I think Mendoza's a really good player, but nobody else on that team was just like, oh my god, they're insane. It's a really well coached, really well fit together unit. Just nothing really crazy.
Omar Cooper Jr. is he's pretty good, but we'll talk about him.
Omar was good.
Yes. That'll be another episode that we talk about wideouts.
I still don't think he's a star. I think he's good. I don't think he's a star.
Pretty good. I do like him a lot.
We'll get into lots of
right.
Of that.
I do like Omar
going forward.
Yeah, you got to keep them on their toes. So that's it. Okay, that's it. we've rounded out over the 2-hour mark at this point with how long this outro is going to be. So if you stay with us for this long, we appreciate it. We'll try to not make the next episodes as long. I don't think we're going to jam in as many positions per episode. We might. These were the 3 positions that they were kind of the least priority. I think the most of the guys we talked about would definitely be day 3 range players that the Chiefs would even be interested in drafting, barring some craziness at 9. But most of these guys, I feel like, especially the positions, are just not as premium positions for the Chiefs this year. So we jumped them all into the one, and you got a 2-hour episode from us. So we appreciate you for rocking with us. We will be back with more. We got a lot more coming up. Wide receivers, tight ends, O-line, D-line,
all the other
secondary.
positions.
Yeah.
Literally all the other positions.
Long
still a lot.
snapper.
Long snappers, kickers, punters. We can find a replacement for the punt god, maybe. I don't know.
We're giving you a 2-hour episode so that you can listen to an hour of it on Saturday and an hour of it on Sunday. It's a whole weekend. You can do the whole thing.
There you go. You got your fix of the Kingdom Says for a couple days.
Yeah, we'll have, since this is literally the first set of prospects that we've talked about, we are going to talk about all of the other positions. We'll probably split up. And definitely the more important groups will probably only do 2 at a time, I would assume.
Even maybe one at a time. I mean, wide receiver might get its own episode. Secondary's probably going to get its own episode. D-line's probably going to get its own episode. So, we got a lot of stuff.
We're going to have to crank out some episodes then, because we're getting closer and closer to draft day, boys.
Yeah. Well, we got to we got to try to keep the episodes down from 2 hours after the next episode. So, we'll keep on going. This is the first one. We got many more to go. We appreciate y'all for rocking with us on this one. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod, Facebook, X, and Instagram. Check us out, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts at. We will be on there. And we'll see you guys next week for more draft prospect stuff, more NFL news, more. We didn't even talk about NFL. By the way, Patrick Mahomes is throwing again. We kind of just it's a little 2-hour and 1 minute mark. Patrick Mahomes is only 3 months after tearing his ACL is throwing the football again. So safe to say, we're back, baby. That's it. That's all we've got for you. We will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.